Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Eddie Lewis here at the WKNI TV 25 studios on historic downtown Andalusia Square. And we have a wonderful young lady who we always enjoy bringing on. And this is Congresswoman Martha Roby. And Congresswoman, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I got to shake you with this.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, Obamacare. In-house joke there. But no, we're recovering. You have got a full plate. You have been going around the state trying to do the town, what do you call them, town hall meetings, and let people bounce off of you questions. And you even made national headlines here a few weeks ago where somebody said something kind of inappropriate, and you handled it very well, I might add.
Thank you.
And you know, to have the quality of representation that we have in you, it's an honor to have you here. It's huge. When I read your press releases, it's not a tit for tat. It's, you know, down to the basics, down to the facts, and we appreciate you for that. And there's no rhetoric in there. Kind of a lady to the point and get it done. So I just wanted to get that all done.
No,
give you all
thank you.
that.
I appreciate your encouragement.
Well, you just left the city of Opp just a few moments ago and came in. You had a town hall meeting over there, I believe, or
we had a small business roundtable. So NFIB members came, and it's the equivalent of a town hall. It's just less people, but it's an opportunity for me to listen, you know, to the people that I represent. And these are business owners with employees that really they get it. They really are the ones that can help me understand what Washington is doing to their business. So it's a good opportunity to listen.
Well, we can tell you a lot that Washington's doing with our business. The FCC is getting involved heavily in small town communications like this as a community TV station, low power. And FCC is being regulated left and right for the big money people, the cable companies and the networks and things like that, and satellite, and basically trying to run us out of the business. So keep that in your ear.
Absolutely.
But these are the ones here that get you on anytime during the day and let the community see and hear from you.
Sure.
Whereas if you're like major market in Montgomery, Mobile, Atlanta, or something like that, they have their major stations and networks there, but it doesn't cover the outskirts very well. So just something there. But anyway, speaking of all that, where can we get some help from the government to get this taken care of? It just seems like every time you turn around, there's a rule or regulation or you can't do this, you can't do that, and Obamacare is coming up, and people are confused. What can we do?
Well, you can't say what the president says all the time, I'm for jobs, and be anti-business. And what's reflected in this executive overreach through the regulatory process is that this administration is not really in favor of jobs. If they were, they would get out of the way. And what we know and what we believe in is that the government needs to get out of the way of these businesses that are, they are the economy. They are what drives the economy. But with all the uncertainty, and go down the list, whether it's Obamacare or the EPA or the NLRB, or just pick a government agency, they are standing in the way and in some instances actually punishing businesses and not allowing for the certainty that business owners need to go out there and hire more people. They don't know what the government's going to do to them next. And so our job, I guess the good news is because we hold the majority in the House, we have oversight capability of these agencies that are promulgating these rules that is hurting business. And there have been instances, and there are examples of where we have pushed back so hard that the government agency has let it go, particularly with the NLRB and the decision made about Boeing in South Carolina. I think that's a really big accomplishment that shows that our oversight that we're doing in the House matters to help businesses. The president doesn't feel that he needs the Congress, and so he's trying to backdoor legislation through these rules by these agencies, and that's the regulatory environment in which we live. So we're going to continue to push up against these agencies to ensure that we're doing all that we can to protect the businesses that are driving our economy.
Congresswoman, it just seems that the president, the administration today, is using executive orders and instead of running as a check and balance as this government was set up by our forefathers to have a legislative and a executive branch and a judicial branch to kind of keep things in balance. We're not seeing that in this administration, are we?
Well, we're not, and I think you have hit the nail on the head. This is executive overreach where the president is doing things beyond the purview of the Constitution. We've got to use that third branch of government a little bit more effectively. We always talk about the Congress and the president, but what we forget is the court system that is also part of that check and balance where if the president, just like if Congress passes an unconstitutional law, the court strikes it down and it's no longer a law. Just like that, if the president is reaching beyond his constitutional authority, then we need to have the court system rein that in. Again, we will continue our role when it comes to oversight, again, hauling these agencies in before the committees that have the relevant issue in order to shine the light on that executive overreach. But we also need to be willing to use that judicial branch more effectively to strike down some of these executive overreach.
So you've answered the million-dollar question, how do we rein in Obama? And it's through the judicial system that we need to...
And our oversight in the House.
So we need to get this... And how can the citizens sitting out here, because this is affecting our jobs, this is affecting our economy. We're supposed to have a rosy red economy. It is better, all right, but we still have people that don't have jobs. We still have a lot of people out there that don't have health care. How do we get control of this? Is it too far gone, or is it?
No, I do not believe so. I mean, my hope is for my kids and yours and your grandchildren. I mean, this is about sustaining America for future generations, and it's why I get on a plane every week and leave my husband and children at home to go fight in Washington. And I'll continue to do that as long as the people of Alabama's 2nd District allow me to. But I'm not waving the white flag. I believe I believe in these business owners. I believe in the people of Alabama's 2nd District. I believe that we have opportunities, and we've just got to continue in my role in Congress and then at the state and local level to make sure that we're doing all that we can to ensure that the people are the driving force behind the economy and not over-regulation and the spending problem that we have in Washington.
Do you see this administration being able to be reined in?
Yeah, I mean, I do. Again, we can't let up. And, I tell people all the time, it's the importance of the 2014 elections. Everybody's talking about 2016 and what's next and who's going to step up in our party and lead. Well, don't forget, we have midterms coming right around the corner. And I believe this president would love nothing more to have unfettered control the last 2 years of his presidency by winning back the majority in the House. And so I think it's very, very important that we maintain our majority so that we can continue our oversight capabilities. And again, maybe even have the opportunity to win the Senate.
You sit on the couple of boards and committees, and one of those has to do with the military, or two of them, I think, have to do with the military. And we're looking at job availability and so on. The military seems to be kind of not shutting down, but slowing down with this administration. Can you see anything to help support our local military? When I say local military, I'm talking about the National Guard. I'm talking about the regular Army and Air Force. They've cut so far back.
Right.
It's been slashed back. And now when we come back from a commercial break, we're going to get into the real reason I'm asking this, is we're looking at another war front. And I didn't say skirmish, I said war front.
Right.
And that's kind of the saber rattling that we're starting to hear on this.
Right.
But do you think that if our executive branch of government would be able to look at more what's happening on a local level within our country, domestic-wise, and focus on that, do you think we'd have to be worrying about these things overseas?
Well, we're always going to have to be concerned about what's happening all over the world, in the sense that we have people that hate us and hate our freedom and hate our liberty. And there's some places, very dangerous places of the world, where they are looking for opportunities to do harm to Americans. So we have to be ever vigilant with our eyes wide open. That being said, when you ask about the cuts to our military, of course, that was done through the Budget Control Act that the Congress passed. I, of course, voted against it for that very reason.
Was that sequestration?
Yes, sir. And that's what caused the 50%, the military to have 50% of the brunt of those cuts. And as we see, there's going to be a hollowing out of our military if we don't do something to fix at least that portion of the sequester that is so harmful to our military. My job on the House Armed Services Committee is to make sure that our military families, our military personnel have everything that they need when we send them into harm's way. And if we are going to continue down this path with the sequester as it relates to the military cuts, we're going to find ourselves in a difficult position to do that. So,
and we can find that very shortly.
Yes, sir.
If the president gets his way.
Yes, sir.
Congresswoman, we're going to have to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back. When we do come back, we're going to be talking about that situation that's going on in the Middle East right now, and,
Sure.
and some of the repercussions. And you've got your answer here, which I think is very eloquent, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Folks, we're going to be back with Congresswoman, excuse me, Roby, right after a few messages from our sponsors. Thanks for watching us. We're live on the square in historic downtown Andalusia. We'll be right back right after this. Folks, welcome back once again, live on the square with Congresswoman Roby, when we were talking about how the government, big government's getting involved in our businesses, and how it's getting tougher and tougher to have businesses come into the communities and stuff and employ people, which creates a situation. But, you know, that's kind of getting under the cape of another situation that's happened over the past couple of weeks, and was brought very much to height in this past Labor Day weekend, and that is President Obama wanting to do military action, and he calls it military action in Syria. And I've got concerns. I shared that with you off camera. And, you know, I've got a son that's currently in the National Guard that just recently came home from Afghanistan, and he was blessed, and God brought him home safely, and the other 600 men and women from Alabama that went with him in his group. But now we're looking at another Middle East situation where the president says, hey, I want to send cruise missiles in, I want to do military action on it. It's because of what they did to their own people. And I'm not saying I'm cold-hearted, okay? It's sad that children, women, and men lost their lives in a very barbaric way using chemical warfare. But that's something that has to be looked at with a more stringent eye, with more information being given out before we go, hey, Katie, hold the barn door and let everything go. And our president started to do that. I know your answer's there, but I'm going to ask you one quick question real quick. Why did he stop and all of a sudden decide to let Congress get involved? And was it because of what happened in England and British, where the Parliament decided that they weren't going to support it? Or was it because he got a smart one? I don't mean that badly, but, you know, he saw it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and it's one that I don't have the answer to. I participated on a phone call last Friday, and it was a 90-minute briefing from, of course, at the unclassified level. It was on an open line, but for the Foreign Affairs Committee and the House Armed Services Committee, it was a briefing by the National Security Team, as well as the Undersecretaries of Defense and the Undersecretary of the State. So everything that I gleaned from that briefing pointed, in my opinion, that the president was ready to take action. And then, of course, we learned on Saturday afternoon that he's going to require or ask Congress to take this vote when we go back next week. I'm for the life of me, and this has been on my mind every waking moment in the past week, and I don't know why he's taken that position, but I can tell you In the meantime, it's my job to gather as much information as I can so that I can make an informed decision when we do take a vote on this issue.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I respect everything that you got in that answer. But why are we, and again, you don't have the answer because you don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there for everybody else to consume. Why are we getting involved in something that has nothing directly to do with our homeland? I mean, I thought that's what the military was for. We're not an invading country, are we?
No, and I mean, it's a great question, and it's on the hearts and minds of everybody that I represent, and I think other representatives across this country are hearing the same questions being asked by their constituents. As I stated in my press release a few hours ago, for a member of Congress to make a decision to send our men and women into harm's way is the most solemn and grave decision that a member of Congress would ever have to make. And I want to thank you again for your service and sacrifice and that of your sons, and I'm so grateful that he's home safe. I know you and your wife are tremendously relieved. So there's a lot that has to be weighed in making a decision of this magnitude. And I truly believe, as I told you off camera, that this is going to have far-reaching effects beyond Syria. It could change the landscape under which we currently are acting. And so with that being said, there are those that have come out and taken a position on this issue publicly, and I have not yet. And the reason that I have not is because members of Congress next week, some are going back this week, I'm going on Monday, will have the opportunity to sit down, and I've got 2 classified briefings on Monday in which I will learn far more information, or hope to learn far more information than I currently have, that may impact the decision that I make. But I just want to say this. In the meantime, I am extremely cautious about the president's red line and the decision that he made in stating that, and then his decision to now require Congress to weigh in. There's certainly a requirement to consult, and now he's asked us for a vote. I want to make sure that I have all of the information, all of the facts before I take a position on whether or not we should do this.
Technically, you all can vote on it, and then he can override it with his executive orders. Is that correct?
Well, the War Powers Act is specific as to the president's ability to take military action for a limited number of days before he has to get the permission of the Congress. So, there are differing views about the constitutionality of the War Powers Act, so there's still even room for debate in that context, but there is some leeway with what the president can do with and without Congress's approval.
In your response that we got today to this situation, you mentioned that just a few days from now, in fact, probably while you're having meetings on this, starting on the 9th, September 11th is rolling around, and that brings us to Benghazi just a year ago.
Sure.
And with all these tidbits of information coming from NAS and talking about these possible terrorist strikes on our country, on our places overseas,
consulates and embassies,
everything. How do you think the lack of I want to use the word congeniality between the president and the legislature is going to react?
Well, the reason I brought up 9/11 is because I'm the subcommittee chairman for oversight and investigation on the Armed Services Committee, and my role in this Congress has been oversight on the Benghazi attack. And all of the hearings that we have held, not all of them, but the majority of the hearings that we have held since my chairmanship have been to peel back the onion on Benghazi and find out what happened from a Department of Defense standpoint so that we are positioned that it will never happen again. My concern in light of the current debate in Syria is that on September 10th of last year, the White House issued a press release saying that Americans across the world would be safe. On September 11th, 4 Americans died. in light of the turmoil and the upheaval in the Middle East right now, and the Congress considering this potential military action in Syria, I just want us to stay ever vigilant and make sure that we have the resources where we need them to be prepared for September 11th. Of course, the people that don't like us and want to cause us harm could do so on any day of the year, but as we have seen in the past, particularly last year, September 11th will always be a date in history that not only we will remember because of the loss of life here, but that the bad guys use as well. And so I just think that what we need to make sure that in light of this whole debate and the current situation, that we are being as vigilant as we can to ensure that Americans all over this world are safe on that anniversary.
One of the statements I heard from a well-known broadcaster on September 11th, 2001, as we watched the towers fall, thousands of people dying, today is the last day that America will know what freedom is. That's scary, because we haven't really known freedom in its true sense since that day, because we're living constantly under terrorism, threats, attacks, Middle East, conflicts. Do you see another day that we could have at September 10th, 2001? Can we ever get back to that level of peace in our minds, knowing that, you know what, we're the big bad guy on the street and nobody's going to mess with us?
Well, obviously, we would all hope to have that. I mean, of course, our world is forever changed by September 11th. And so, again, it's just a stark reminder of the readiness that is required on behalf of our military. And we do have to project strength, peace through strength. And again, going back to the sequester, we're not going to get there if we continue to cut military spending to such a place that we no longer have the two-war standard. We have failed to look at what the strategy is and then match the dollars to that. Instead, we appropriate a certain amount of funds and we deal with strategy later. I mean, I have the utmost respect for our military commanders and all of our men and women in uniform. I mean, a profound respect. But again, if we're going to get back to that place, we've got to make sure that we are giving them, they are the tip of the spear, and we have to make sure that we're giving them every resource that they need to take on the missions that we give them. And if we continue in this trend, we're going to find ourselves in a different place.
Congresswoman Roby, I thank you so much for coming on. Put you through the ringer a little bit on a couple of subjects, but I'd like to offer you the time right now. Whatever you'd like to say to the constituents out there, please do.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I just thank you for that, and thank you for having me. And I would just take the opportunity to say thank you on behalf of my husband Riley and our kids Margaret and George for giving us the responsibility and the privilege to serve you in the United States Congress. And we want to hear from you. The only way that I am the best congressman I can be is if I'm listening to the people that I represent. And so there's a lot of weighty issues out there, a lot of things that you have on your mind, and I would just invite you to pick up the phone or send us an email. Again, we want to hear from the people that I represent to make sure that when I put that card in the voting box, that I am representing all of Alabama's 2nd District. So again, thank you for having me, and thank you again to all of our military men and women serving our country, both here and abroad, and just know that I'm fighting for you, and again, just appreciate that. So,
Congresswoman, again, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Folks, we got to keep this young lady in prayer, and this country in prayer. She's got some pretty heavy decisions coming up to make, and with her honesty and straightforwardness that we've seen here at WKNI, we know she's going to make the right decisions, and we appreciate the honesty that you have. But God's number one, and God will have the final say in this. And I pray that we all the churches in this community that watch us, please pray for Congresswoman Roby, our legislatures that are there. We need to put an end to this craziness that's going on. And pray for our president and all the leaders in this country. And that's about all I can say, but thank you again.
Thank you.
Folks, remember, keep it real. Keep God in it. This is Eddie Lewis reporting live on the square for WKNI TV.